Who's ready to go to Houston? H-time. I said who's ready to go to Houston. The one person from Houston, everyone else is like, man, what's up?
This thorn in my flesh is the only thing I got left, and it's so hard to confess when everybody thinks you're perfect.
I had been on a pilgrimage to New York City with the Chapel and Religious Life, and I wasn't really sure what it was going to be like. I knew it would be powerful, but as far as exact expectations, I was really kind of just being open to how God was going to move me during that week.
I didn't know anything about Texas. All my mind was really brainwashed with was cartoons and how they always reference Texas as being this land of the cowboys, honestly. Pronunciation is silent.
I didn't really have that many expectations overall because I've never done a service trip like this. And I really didn't think that I would fit in very much because I don't really come to chapel that often. And I mean, I was really excited, but I really did it just because I thought, okay, I really need to have more in my life at this point, so.
I really just, I wanted to go home. I didn't see it as a mission trip. I saw it as just kind of me volunteering in my community and bringing people along to do that. I felt like I led people and I felt like people led me.
You could see, there was already tearing down that was going on. You could see that, while at the same time, their lives were still in that home. They had mugs and trophies on this one wall. And it was really, really, it was emotionally a wrecking ball because you physically walked into their vulnerability. It was a really humbling experience that they would allow 12 perfect strangers to kind of intrude and, take apart all that was once so loved and so lived in.
When we got to Ecclesia on the very first day, we sat down ready for the service, and a woman comes over and asks, hey, we need 3 more people to help with communion. Are any of you guys interested? And I was like, this is usually something that people who have been at the church for a very, very long time do. It's not really something you ask a newcomer to do. So I was like, oh, I'll do it. And so I gave communion. And that was a really intimate experience that I really didn't feel qualified for. But then at the end of the week, I was kind of just thinking that God doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called.
Look at the takeoff.
We went to Lakewood Church. We were all standing, worshiping, and one of their leaders, Nick, came up and he said, if there's anyone here who wants to recommit themselves to Christ, to raise their hand. And I raised my hand, and Jamie was standing next to me, and I felt her raise her hand also. So I kind of just stood there for a minute, and then all of a sudden I felt this overwhelming power come over me, and I knew I was supposed to bring Jamie up there with me in that moment. I grabbed her hand and we walked up there together, and we recommitted ourselves together, and it was just this fulfilling moment where I felt Christ just completely come over me. And for the rest of the trip, I think I felt Christ more than I ever had before. He just felt so present in my life.
Going to St. Pauls United Methodist Church in Houston. This pastor had a very engaging prophetic language in this church that seemed very old and traditional. And then we were actually able to meet with him later that week and have a kind of round table, although it was a rectangle, conversation about how he sees ministry. And he talked about how it is merely because he's able to do contemplative practices, prayers, and meditation that allow him to center himself in God, that he's able to do everything else. And as someone that's looking to go into pastoral ministry, this was very encouraging and insightful as it speaks to how visible the community engagement work is. Doesn't mean that you can't neglect the spiritual disciplines and prayer time and times in silence, solitude, and contemplation.
Pastor Rudy is
role model. Pastor Rudy is definitely like top 5 coolest people on earth. Like, I mean, Tupac, Pastor Rudy, like they're right there. No, the first time I met Pastor Rudy, I was confused about his facial hair, and it's called his hater filter. And I think that kind of wraps up who he is. He doesn't care about if you don't like him. He doesn't care about if you don't like what he think. He really just care about, this is who I am. Let me get to know who you are, and let's get to know Christ together. That's where his ministry is.
So we were invited by Leo to go to the branch, which is a youth group for middle school and high school kids. And they also separate from groups, girls and boys. And so we went with the girls group. There was a point where they had asked us to go and pray over these girls because they were getting ready to go on a retreat. And I was just praying for their safety on their retreat, that they would feel comfortable in finding God. And about 4 girls in my group had to get up and walk out because they were crying so hard. I started crying because I wish that I would have had that when I was that age, and because I need that. And I feel like I was there with them right now because I'm just finding my way back. It was just so moving to me, and I won't ever forget that.
Revision is a program that gives kids an outlet to express themselves through breakdance, or any type of dance really. It started off with breakdance, and now they do things with crumping, breakdancing, hip hop.
Because I just really like watching people dance, and when people dance really good, it just looks like magic to me. I'm just like, wow, how do y'all do that? Because the only dancing I've ever seen done in a church is interpretive. I've never seen like hip hop culture be like incorporated in the church.
Revision is what left the biggest impact on me, simply because since I was a freshman in high school, I was always thinking about building up a conservatory for dance, singing, and theater. I just thought it was really cool, and just seeing it all come together as one. As soon as I got back, I was thinking of ways to find out exactly what major I needed to go into to get all the materials and knowledge I needed to be able to pursue what I wanted to do.
Grace and I were in charge of devotional, and the theme that we came up with was what brings us joy. And as everyone gave their answers, Wes comes in and gives his, and as he spoke, his answer just grew, and it was awe-inspiring just to see the miracles that have happened in his life, the good and the bad that just led him to this moment.
But grace is sufficient to start my mission. I'm so far from perfect, can't believe they listen. But hear a broken man tell you healing happens, and hear a liar tell you truth to bring you gladness. I could never boast in my accomplishments. I can only hope in God with confidence, opposite of optimist. You and I are consonants, broken all the vows, deserving of every consequence.
And so for me, it's so memorable to see that though we go through struggles as Christians, though we go through struggles in any form of walks of life that we are going through, it's so comforting to know that our problems are not so unique to ourselves that we have to feel alone. And that's honestly humbling, because that gives us the opportunity to grow together. And really, there's nothing more that can be said about that.